If you've been watching my videos, which you should, you know that I have visited Johto twice already in the last few. And I am sorry, I can't help it, I just like that region way too much. So today, and because I really cannot stop, we are going there again. So hey, I'm Not So Ace Trainer, welcome back to the channel, and were the unknown really always the unknown? Let's get into it. When talking about the lore of the unknown in my previous video and offering a possible way for them to evolve, I touched on a very particular subject. That subject were the Sinjoh ruins, because you cannot really talk about the mysterious Gen 2 Pokémon without mentioning what is, essentially, their biggest development since being released. So what are the Sinjoh ruins and why do they matter for us to find out if the unknown really were always the unknown, whatever this crazy guy means by that? Well, the Sinjoh ruins are the ruins of an ancient place somewhere between Johto and Sinnoh. They were built when two groups of humans met in that particular place. Some of them had come from the land of history and were very likely people from Celestica, the same people Volo calls the ancient Sinnoh people. If you look at the architecture of the place, it contains pillars that look very similar to those of the ruins we find all around in Pokémon Legends Arceus. In fact, it's very likely that Sinjoh is not just the Sinjoh ruins, as one of the old verses talks about Sinjoh almost as a region, a land, saying that the land of history bears some resemblance to it, which in a way implies some proximity. The rest of the people had come from the Ruins of Alph. It is very likely that when we read the message "we live here for the sake of them," we are reading their goodbyes before taking on the journey towards what would eventually become the Sinjoh ruins. Just like the pillars resemble the ones from history, so does the building itself resemble those from the Ruins of Alph. That is what the Sinjoh ruins are, and they matter to us to find out if the unknown were truly always the unknown because of their very peculiar name. When we first went to the Sinjoh ruins way back in the day through the Arceus event, it became implicit that the name came from the Sinnoh region's name and the Johto region's name coming together as a symbol of the union from those two groups of people. Kinda like the Tojo Falls mixes the Kanto region's name with the Johto region's name to symbolize their unity as well through that waterfall, the place where they connect. But recently that information has become a lot less simple than it used to be, and that's because Sinnoh is not just the region's name anymore, it is much more than that. In Pokémon Legends Arceus, we learn about the past of the Sinnoh region, where, well, it wasn't named Sinnoh. So, when the people from those two places decided to journey towards what would eventually become Sinjoh, half of them had come from the land of history, not the land of Sinnoh. But Sinnoh was something that already existed. It existed in the form of the almighty Sinnoh, a deity that was worshipped by the Diamond and Pearl clans and that named the Temple of Sinnoh. Even though they didn't know who they were truly talking about, believing it was either Palkia or Dialga, we come to find out that Almighty Sinnoh is actually Arceus. And we know that this isn't just a case of the name having changed from Sinnoh to Hisui and then back again to Sinnoh, because one of the old verses, old verse 16, says, "Heaven's crown nearest to Almighty Sinnoh," talking about Mount Coronet, the highest point of the region, so the closest to heaven, so to speak. This means that when the ancient Sinnoh people left Hisui and went to what would eventually become Sinjoh and gave it their part of the name, they did not give it their region's name, they gave it the name of their god. So, what about the rest of the people? What about the other half? While we could believe that the people that hailed from the Ruins of Alph named their half through what they also named Arceus, there is absolutely no piece of evidence, be it through dialogue, monuments, locations, absolutely nothing that indicates that the people of Alph even knew of the existence of the Alpha Pokémon. And yes, I have just used Alpha Pokémon on purpose just to say that I don't think they named themselves because of the Alpha Pokémon. I don't think it is Alpha Alph. I think Alph comes from alphabet, which is a neat reference to how the unknown are actually a reference, or they are actually an alphabet. So, if they did not worship or knew about Arceus and left that place behind just because the Unown seemingly gave them that task or showed them that that was the way, it is fair to assume that the Unown were somewhat their gods. The people of Alph worshipped the Unown. And that's where this theory reaches its goal. Could Johto have been the name of the Unown? The reason why they added that word to the name of the other people's god. I think it is very much possible. In fact, I believe there is a chance that they were truly the only people around those parts that understood them. The ones that knew what the Unown were about. They worshipped them and lived with them for a long time, communicated with them. After they left, people that found those abandoned ruins or that abandoned village did not know what those Pokemon were. They were scared of people, they hid away, and they looked like nothing they had seen before. Everything about them was unknown, so they were called the Unown. Also, I can't really deny that this had me looking at Kanto as well because of the Tojo Falls thing, even though that likely happened a long time after the Sinjoh thing. I mean, Kanto's name comes from actual Kanto in Japan, so there's not much mystery there, but it's still the region without actual old/ancient lore. I think next video might just be on this somehow. But let's get back to the topic. What I really can't explain is how Johto eventually became the name of the region, but it is possible that there were references to that word in a language that other people that found that place actually understood. We can't forget that these things happened way before the events of the Towers in Ikrotik that happened 150 years ago, or possibly even before the War of the World Islands. Johto could have been a place like Sinnoh, like Hisui, a land and not a unified region at the time. A place largely uninhabited, to be found by others from other places, just like it happened in Hisui with the Diamond Clan, the Pearl Clan, the Galaxy Team, and the Ginkgo Guild. People that did not know that Johto was the name of those people's gods, the name for those mysterious creatures they were seeing in those abandoned ruins, that abandoned village. And so they just named the region that. But what about you? How do you feel about the theory? How do you feel about Johto being the true name of the Unown? Let me know in the comments down below. And now, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all on the next one. But before I go, I want to thank my YouTube members Good Old Deo, Dash Plays, The Gavanator, and Attila Santo, and my Twitch subscribers and newbies here, the Dr. Joe, Teixeira23, Lazarix, and Odd Cypher for going the extra mile. Thank you so much for all of your support.